All right, welcome back, guys. Just doing a weekly update on where I'm at with some of my studies. We'll see how it goes. And I just feel overwhelmed sometimes between two jobs and stuff. I'm just trying to get schoolwork whenever I can. I'm trying to get an hour or two a day, but man, it's tough sometimes. Like I'll wake up in the morning and feel like I'm ready to throw up, and I'm like, well, let's go running for a while, and if I throw up at the end, let's hope it doesn't impede too much into my reading time and stuff, not in the bathroom for a couple hours instead of reading. Maybe I should just leave a textbook in the bathroom. That might work. That would definitely be the thing to do. But anyways, so reading wise, I kind of put my CCNA on the back burner for this week, just to kind of reestablish myself. I've been looking at the job boards lately, and I'm just throwing out my resume to people and just seeing how things go. And seeing a lot of them are requesting Active Directory on top of the networking stuff, which is great. I think it's a great direction to go. My biggest problem is I'm trying to figure out time management. What's the best direction ahead for everything. I think I just need to spend a couple days a week on top of the CCNA stuff. I want to be if I can, I want to be able to go into another job by the end of this year, regardless if I have certifications. And I'm hoping to create enough content by that time, or have my knowledge base enough that someone will just take me on. That's kind of the goal, but we'll see how that goes. So books wise, I've been going through, I've been just collecting textbooks because I'm not really sure where I want to be with things, just because there's so many options out there in terms of certifications and stuff, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend, $400 on a test, and how many hours am I going to have to spend to take that test? So like, for instance, the A+ certification, it's really great. It's a great textbook for somebody who doesn't know anything. My problem with it is going to be that I've had 6 years of computer science experience, where I've been literally just doing Google. So I never cared to specifically memorize things like, what's the correct term for this, or what's the correct connector for this. I'm like, I don't need to know this. If I did, I can just look it up. I generally know what most of the connector types are, but then you get into things like how many pins are on a DDR2 stick of RAM. Doesn't matter, because I don't really care right now, because we're on DDR4 for one, and two, there's literally Google that says, hey, compatibility checker. So that's my understanding, is like, I understand stuff so fundamentally that it's instinctive for me for issues with things. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's probably going to be this. Let's go ahead and just test it real quick and see what's happening. Okay, good. It's ready. That's the issue. Okay, move on. Replace it or fix it, whatever you need to do. And I just know that instinctively. I've been working at a repair shop lately, and we're getting products like computers and stuff in, and I'll get the person will have a MacBook, like a MacBook Air, for instance. I'm like, oh, that looks like a 2013 model. Am I correct? And the person's like, yeah, actually it is. I'm like, yes. Or like iMacs too. iMacs are really apparent what models they are, and I just know that instinctively. I can look at the ports on the back and name everything. It's just one of those things that I can. I don't need to read or spend months studying for an A+ certification, and then spend another $400 to pass the test. That just seems like an awful lot of time and money spent on something that especially since I'm not making a whole lot of money right now, I don't see a purpose in this, especially since my experience should show that I'd rather spend my time working towards Active Directory, how that all functions. My CCNA, which is going to be network, or which could tie into the Network Plus certification as well. I might just finish my CCNA and then go take the Network Plus and see if I can pass it, because it's funny because I've been reading the CCNA book. About a quarter of the way through the textbook itself, probably. And then I'm getting pretty close to halfway through the actual training on IT Pro TV. It's been great. It's just pretty dense, and sometimes I have to take a step back and go, okay, am I actually understanding this? And then I have to go do a little bit more research. But I kind of stepped back this last week just because with all the Active Directory stuff, I was like looking through some of my other textbooks I had. This is the MCSA, just to see if I can get a better grasp on what's offered on the CCNA, or what's offered with Active Directory and why so many companies are using it over other services that are out there. So that's why I was spending so much time. This book I personally feel like it's going to be useless for me. It's the MCSA for just standard Windows 10. It's basically just a manual on like, hey, this is all the different features for the X, Y, and Z. I'm like, that's great. I don't care to know this because I already generally know stuff, and everything else I'll just literally just Google and say, hey, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And Microsoft basically has this all on their website, or if not, there's usually a number of different posts about it because someone else is going to be running into that same problem, and it's just easier to just look it up that way. Specific issues and stuff that I've run into, I usually keep notes on. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of like driver issues, viruses, and stuff like that. Especially when I was working at Apple. iTunes is broken. I don't know whose fault it was. I think it was Apple's because they had so many different services running. But yeah, we would run into issues. A fairly common one was my device won't show up in iTunes. It was one of two things. Either your iTunes was out of date. That was more specifically on the Mac side. But iTunes would sometimes act funny because like sometimes you'll go check for updates for iTunes and it would say there aren't any updates available. And it would actually be because your version of iTunes is so old that it literally cannot connect anymore. Or the other thing that broke very commonly would be the drivers for the device. So we'd have to go and hopefully go check the device manager and see if the device is actually showing up. If it's not showing up, you have to manually install the driver and go to the file path for it. Trying to explain that over the phone with somebody was interesting, especially if they didn't know what version of Windows they had, because it's just an HP. I've had it for 2 years when it's actually 10 or 15 years old, and it's running on Windows XP, which isn't compatible anyways. Yeah, that stuff would happen. It is what it is. You know, people don't really pay attention to this stuff, and it's my passion, and I truly believe that the more you understand technology, the better it can suit you and fit your needs, the more efficient you can become. Most people just don't have the time for that, and they just don't bother, and they just hand it off to people like us to fix it, which is fine. I enjoy the job security. So I think this particular form of the MCSA is going to be completely useless for me. I'm sad that this book was going to be so useless. I was hoping it was going to give me some insights, but past like the general setup of how to set up your network, how to set up shared folders, why Active Directory, some of the basics of Active Directory, and some of the basics of PowerShell, like it's pretty useless. I don't think I'm going to spend the $400 to get this test done, or however much it's going to cost. But I think so I think I'm going to do the CCNA stuff, at least get through it. If I don't pass it in time, I think I'm just going to till things like get settled down in February. I might just go review the Network Plus book that I have, which is roughly the same size as this one. Review it, just make sure I have some of the extra terms that they were looking at. It seems like a pretty much an easy read compared to the CCNA, so I think it's going to be a lot easier to pass. So I might just go forward with this Network Plus certification. If I don't make it in time, I might not make it in time just because of my work schedule being insane. Um, but that happens. That's life, you know, working 40, 50 hours a week, plus trying to get some schoolwork in there. The biggest trick is just to keep yourself excited, and sometimes you just have to take a step back from the actual training and go find another textbook to read, or find a regular book to read, or find some YouTubers to listen to. You know, just mix it up and get something refreshed, and then go back at it again. You know, sometimes I've been feeling kind of stuck with the CCNA stuff I'm at right now, just because it's so new to me. I needed to give it time to sit in, read it a couple more times to figure out if that's going to be the right direction, and then go back at it again. Um, Something really nice that did come out though was with the Humble Bundle. They do typically software, but occasionally do these insane bundles of books and stuff like that. I can't remember the last one I had before this one, but this one's really great. So it's Network and Security Certification 2.0. I paid like $15 and I got literally 15 books, textbooks, all PDF or EPUB. But so the MCSA for Windows Server, the study guide, both of those books, the practice tests, ICND. I'm not sure what the ICND is. I haven't looked at that yet. Probably figure that out eventually. Then the Network Plus and Security Plus review guide, which I don't actually have. I just have the actual textbooks, so that'll be good to have on hand. Why are there... Oh, 740, 741, 742. Okay. So all the Windows Server books, basically, CCNA routing and switching, which I already have, but it's good to have a digital form because then I can just bring my laptop to work and stuff and just have that out, and people are like, oh yeah, it's just a laptop, and then I'm actually studying for work stuff, school stuff, which is subtle and great way to do it. AWS, which is Amazon's cloud services, and how they do things. I know they're a pretty dominant force in the market, just because they make things so convenient and secure. I read through some of the official cloud certified for Google. I got through all the different file types they use. It's really interesting how they've designed things. I'm really impressed with all that, and I couldn't imagine being the engineers developing this stuff and like making sure that, like, hey, are we actually saving all this person's data? Is it not going to be all corrupted in the end? Is this all encrypted and secure? Yeah, there's just so many different levels to that. So this is a great bundle. The really great thing about it is it's only $15. You know, it's basically free at that point. So I'm really glad Humble Bundle's been creating this stuff. And since it's DRM free, you can literally put it in PDFs. I uploaded it up to my Google Drive so I can access it from whatever device I'm at. So I'm on my phone, that's great, I can do that. I'm on my laptop, on my desktop, I usually just keep a page open. That's kind of what I've been starting to do, is just keep the book open on subjects I'm having trouble with, and then as I'm working or while I'm at home, while I'm waiting for something, I'll glance over at my textbook and read a little bit. Even if it doesn't fully set in, it's repetition that I'm trying to get in my head the most. So this is a great thing to do. I was really excited for the Windows Server stuff. I might actually just go buy the actual textbook because I prefer having an actual physical book. One, because it gets me off my computer and I don't get tempted to go do other things at the same time. I've been fixing that lately with doing like 30-minute breaks or 30-minute timers. So I'll set up a 30-minute timer, work for that time, and then when it goes off, I'll stop it, do something else. Usually just take my dog out for a walk for a little bit, for 5 or 10 minutes, come back in, and focus on it again. Obviously, I don't have that much time in the mornings, but all the time. But on my days off, I'm fitting at least a 4 or 5 hour block in, at least throughout the day. So it's been good. So I'm excited. It's just a lot of information that I'm trying to ingest, especially with some of the job opportunities that I'm trying to apply for. If I just happen to get them, I want to be able to have enough of a foundation that I can say, yes, I'm very confident that I could figure this stuff out. I might be timid at first. I might be hesitant to jump be able to say, hey, I'm 100% certified, just because I haven't had the actual experience yet. But I have at least enough of an overview to say, yes, I can do at least the basics, and not break stuff at least. Just lighting stuff on fire, especially when it's enterprise stuff, is not good. But hey, it's what happens. So this week I think I'm going to focus back. I'm going to try and get back into the Cisco stuff. I think it's going to be healthy. Actually, no, I'm going to be probably focused on the server stuff. I think I'm just going to take a pause on the networking stuff. I've gotten a pretty good foundation of it, of the initial stuff that I like. Okay, I understand how to set up a network. I know how to open up a secure shell with something. I know how to set up a VM. I know how to set up a server. That stuff's all pretty standardized and nowadays, as long as you're not doing some crazy stuff. But most companies, they're being paid enough that they can have a good GUI built in. So that's basically been my week. I'm trying to see if I can. Problem is, I need to get my car fixed, but I really wish I could go buy a small computer to set up a RAID array on. Preferably with like 4 hard drives or something, and then set up virtualization servers for all the different stuff like Active Directory, Linux servers. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Anyways, that's all for now, and I'll see you guys later. Oh, I'm getting tired. Anyways, you guys have a great night.